I'm just going to bring up your first speaker. Her name is Kate Bellingar. I think I'm pronouncing that right. She is a traveler. She got back from how much time in China and South Africa? 3 years. So she's been gone for a little bit. She does some art. She's into sculpture and street art. Very cool. I think she's going to talk about that a bit. And her topic is going to be people are people. So thanks for coming to the stage.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Bellingar and I'm an artist and entrepreneur. This is my first piece of street art, People Are People, written in equal signs. It sums up what I'm really passionate about and it's what I want to talk about tonight. When I was 21 years old, I moved to Beijing, China. Before going, I thought I knew how to speak Chinese, I had the culture all figured out, I was so ready, and I was wrong. China was really different, and I went expecting differences and found them everywhere. But it's also fascinating, and we miss a lot if we only focus on the differences that disconnect us. Sure, we do speak different languages, we have different histories, different professional practices, and family traditions. But what shocked me most was how well we could connect despite those differences. It also made me realize how much I didn't know. And Pocahontas tried to teach me this with the things you never knew, you know that song. But it didn't really sink in as a kid. So Suriname's ambassador to China, his name is Lloyd Pinas. He describes the importance of accessible information and literacy with this diagram. So the upward-facing triangle is people, and the downward-facing triangle is information. So if you can see, the great amount of people at the bottom have a small amount of information, lower literacy rates, etc., while the people at the top have vast amounts of information at their disposal. So with this and People Are People, I learned two things. First, the more we know we don't know. And that applies to everything, whether we're talking about business culture in China, psychology in America, when we're studying anything, the more we know we don't know. And second, building off of that, is that we don't know what we don't know. We have no idea who or what is waiting just around the corner for us to discover. On the other side of that, we can't choose something if we don't realize that it's a choice for us. So we don't know what we don't know. And this is where People Are People can give us a lot of help. Everyone in this room and everyone in the world is a person you can connect with. I don't care which country you're from, which language you speak, what your physical and mental capabilities are. We've all been scared, we've all felt joy, and we've all experienced pain. We miss out on a lot if we assume that we don't have anything in common. So, to challenge these stereotypes and draw attention to the things that we want to learn about, seeing is believing. So we believe something when we see it or experience it in real life. To draw attention to this, I started doing interviews with my friends in China to show people back home how much we really did have in common. Interviewed my friends Long and Bean, who are navigating entrepreneurship in Beijing. The second one down there is Xin Yu, and she works full-time at a PR agency, but also publishes her own novels on the side. There's also Soon Mi, who's a drummer for a Chinese folk rock band, and he opened his own school to teach kids how to play the drums from like 4 years old. It's adorable. He has baby drum sets. And also Anders. He does coding, but China has a lot of pressure, and he just says, F all of your expectations. I'm going to go ski and do what I love. So these are the people that really influenced me in China, and we do have a lot in common. I think we often divide ourselves between us and them, but we have a lot in common. I also interviewed my expat friends who have really integrated themselves into Chinese culture, just to capture what it's like to be a young professional working and living in Beijing. And I think that content is really important because it seems like it's such a foreign and unknown and scary concept to move over there. But once you see someone you can relate to succeeding at it, I think it makes it a lot more accessible for everyone else. So after 3 years, I moved to Cape Town, South Africa, and I did interviews with artists there. And they talked about wanting to contribute to the circle of knowledge, meaning knowledge about South Africa created by South Africans, which kind of struck me as strange because that seems so obvious. But when you think about it, that's really not how things are done. That's not how information is gathered or spread. So how much of what you know about South Africa comes from a South African source? And how much of what you think about China comes from a person from China? It's easy to see why we honor our stereotypes and our expectations as facts, because they're all we're exposed to. So then, how do we show up and challenge those stereotypes? Well, this is my friend Pete, and Pete travels a lot. He's been to over 15 countries in the last few years, including coming to see me in Beijing, which is a sadly inaccessible city. And that's important to the story because Pete has cerebral palsy and he uses adaptive equipment to get around. Challenging the stereotype that individuals with disabilities cannot or should not travel is something Pete considers a personal duty. Few people think about the accessibility of a place. Honestly, I very rarely do until I see someone in that space struggling to move through it, ultimately succeeding one way or another, but putting it in my face how exclusive that space is. This, though, can really expand our human experience if we're paying attention. Pete's example is overt, meaning that whether we're part of the conversation or not, we can witness it. So if we're paying attention, it draws our awareness to our current thinking and our current world, which I think is pretty cool. But some connections require us to have really vulnerable conversations to find out how we are connected. It's really easy to separate ourselves between us and them. Very small differences can cause us to divide between that's them, this is us. And so that starts with having really vulnerable conversations, just showing up. This is who I am, this is what I think, this is how I do things. And you'll be so shocked at what you can learn. I think we all have this tendency to really underestimate ourselves and overestimate others, when really we should just stop estimating and have the conversations already. Because even the smartest people were ignorant at one time, and we all get really anxious. So, I mean, like right now, me. So this is a sculpture I made, and it demonstrates that people are people. So he's holding the people triangle, and if you lift his head up, he lifts the people up. So you get more information, you meet more people. Opening his heart also lifts people up. And so I think that by accepting that people are people, and not just accepting it, but pursuing it actively, looking for our areas of connection, we can greatly enhance our human experience. We get to discover what we didn't know we didn't know. We get to meet incredible people and actually get to know them, and we get to learn that we have so much more to learn. And I think that's just really exciting. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Big round of applause for Kate one more time. Awesome. I appreciate her talking about stereotypes and kind of avoiding stereotypes. You know, a lot of people think that just because I'm a comic, I'm funny. Obviously, not the case. Not the case.